Okay, cool. Welcome to another segment of IT Fundi. That's called Subscribe. Here we discuss tech, everything to do with tech, self-help videos, and guidance in your journey as you navigate the tech world. Today we continue with OpenMRS, and we're going to enjoy the bit of how you as a developer get started. Where do you look for documentation? How do you get the best guidance to just be set on the ground running so that you can really improve and become a world-class developer? Not only that, but also be of benefit to healthcare, to be of value to the tech community, and all these nice things that I've just mentioned. Today we continue, like I've said, with OpenMRS, and this is an open medical record system. It's open source with a huge community, an emphasis there, so you're not shooting in the dark. This is something that is recognized and used all over. Of course, the website there is well representative. It will be linked in the description below, and you can explore more on your own and prove some of these words if you may. So we start out with what prerequisite knowledge do you need to be specifically? We're going to be dealing with the front-end development segment, then back-end we shall see later on. So let's look at the front-end. So if you're to develop the front-end for OpenMRS, what do you need? Basically, they are the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, basic front-end technologies. What level you should be at? Of course, you should be relatively proficient. And so of course, as you know, by the fact that you're still in this journey, you know that it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of doing, but also it's a rewarding career. So you have basics of JavaScript, and of course some information is linked for you there so that you can some resources. You really need to get an interesting idea of React. There's even a caution here: don't just gloss over the fundamentals. Having a solid understanding is very pivotal. TypeScript, the .ts and .tsx. There's TypeScript plain, and then TypeScript with React. Of course, here are some cheat sheets and some quick information for you to navigate as fast as you can. You also have an understanding. There is a prerequisite of having an understanding of JavaScript tooling, a bit of how package management is done, how to run scripts, and compile JavaScript or transpile, depending on what you're doing. A module bundler, Webpack is the one of choice here, so it's what the community uses. Of course, these communities flourish on collaboration, and a lot of developers, a lot of talent all over the world, of which the talent you're also you're part of the talent pool. So we want to really see your work. So here is a bit of understanding how Git and GitHub works. A lot of repositories, and these are accessible. Of course, access to write and read from these repos is granted as per the community guidelines, and this is open progressively as you go through the ranks. I will share how the different developer stages in just a bit in the following video, but as per now, let's just look at this. You also need to understand, yes, we're looking at the front end, but you also have to have a solid understanding of how the back end works. So you need to understand the OpenMRS data model, from which table, how do you fetch this data, and how do you handle it on the front end. And of course, the APIs. OpenMRS ships with its own REST API, but also there is a push to implement Fire for interoperability with various other systems, and this just makes it all the more valuable to the healthcare sector that you can integrate this with other systems. The architecture is also relatively modern, and indeed it's something that can be of value. Note the word relatively modern. So what's next after this? You've gotten the prerequisites, but as you also know, there are two paths to take. You can take the step-by-step going through each technology, or you can take the chaotic path. You get the basics of JavaScript, you jump into React. But of course, make sure when I say the basics of JavaScript, I mean you really get an understanding. You may not learn how lazy loading is implemented in vanilla JavaScript and so on, but at least understand the fundamentals, how the basic data structures work, and that will really, really help you in this. And then by the time you go to React and other components of other technologies, you're really relatively proficient. Just know that React is a framework for JavaScript, so an understanding of JavaScript is really critical. Sure. So we will go to another idea that we look at. What are some of the here they're talking to you as a developer, and they're saying it leverages modern technologies, and basically here are some guiding principles, and the technology stack here is given a bit more at a higher level, but still all this documentation, as you notice, is well written out and it's to guide you. My job here is just to save you all the time that you would have taken navigating all the docs, but just going straight to the parts that will really help you get started. So for the technology stack, React, like I said, but of course prerequisites are JavaScript. TypeScript also is critical. The Carbon design system, you really need to have an understanding of HTML and CSS. This helps you to understand the different UI components and also the different features that the UI has to offer and how these work together. Of course, some other technologies like single SPA, Webpack, a module bundler, and then the APIs, of course. Also, some other important resources here, like I had mentioned in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, I request you to do so. It will really be of value to you. It's rather long, but it's worth it. And at the end, you will have this high-level overview before we dive into these nitty-gritties here. So, when you look at these different documents, you have the design documents, you have designer onboarding documents, you have weekly calls, and these calls really help you to keep you in check. And also for some people who are handling because it's open source, some people assign different tasks. So as they handle these different components, they from time to time, there is follow-up that is done, of course, to keep the project moving. That elbow grease has to be tracked as well, despite the fact that it's volunteering work, but it has to be tracked. And here you also have some access to some repositories. Like I said, you need to understand Git for collaboration. All right, we segue to the next portion. I love this. This shows you that this is currently being maintained, and of course the update is relatively recent. And this tells you that the community is really actively looking into improving this documentation. As you shall find out, if you're a senior developer, you already know how hard it is to document. There is always this notion that you focus on first getting the app to work before you start writing down what it can do. And yeah, precisely for that reason, many apps, even very lovely technologies, have poor documentation. So there's quite a lot of it here. And you can also see drafts as well. You can also use the opportunity, you sign in. I'll show you how to do that. But when you're able to sign up, you can easily get access to read and write and contribute to these documents as you proceed. Okay. We look at the architecture of the front end. Of course, like I said, it's a big project, and it has very many apps. We shall explore some of these and the demo that we shall have shortly, where you have the home app, attachments. So some of these things only make sense when you've gotten the fundamentals of the technology stack. But of course, this is an outline of what the app can offer from the developer view. Dispensing, you can see notes, conditions, medications, biometrics. I just want you to note some of those things. We shall see them on the front end in the demo. You can see there is a primary navigation, there is a patient banner app. You can see there is even a registration app somewhere in here, like right there. So we shall see all these apps in action in just a bit. Okay, so there is a link here. I'll add these links in the description so that you can quickly follow. So there is a test server with which you can use to have access to a demo site, and then you can try out, and that's exactly what I'll use to show you that this is open to everyone, and whoever has access to this, the credentials are right there. So we'll use those and log in, and I'll show you around. So yeah, so I had already logged in. You know, it's a dev server, it's a test environment, so you really have to test and see if it's working out. Okay, so We'll start with our test credentials that were provided, and yeah, so the credentials over there, then we move to login. Now this is the home page that you land on when you log in, and this gives you an overview of the patients who have active visits and quite vital information. That's why it's very critical for you to understand the data model of OpenMRS, because this information actually is fetched directly from there. Okay, cool. So you're able to register a patient. Like you can see, it's a demo site. Just a moment, and I think it will be right up. Usually there's a lot of traffic on this test site, so someone else might have it open as well. So you can see there is a registration page capturing all this information. That's why it's very critical for you to understand the data model. You can see different metadata, you can see different identifiers. Let me say you have passports, and you can enforce regular expressions on these. Very amazing stuff. You can have an address hierarchy, a sort of type. You can configure this to really match what you want. You can have, you can search. You can have a different kind of structure, like a district, province, and then maybe a village, and then a local area, and a smaller unit. So you can have that as many as 4 levels deep, for example, for this case, or actually 5. And it's really very configurable. And other, of course, important information like telephone numbers and so on. Another another very important thing you can look at in this is the registration page, so I'll cancel that. The other bit we can look at is the locale switching. So you can have various locales here. Like I said, yeah, it's unstable because it's a test site. So you can have different locales from English to different languages like Hebrew, Khmer. For Cambodia, you can have Chinese, you can have French, Spanish, and so on. So this list can be as big as you want it to be. And of course, with each switch, there is a corresponding translation of all the components, so all the different labels and all the different texts to really match the locale. That's the internationalization, localization kind of strategy that is available because it's an open source product used by many. You can also explore the patient chart, and this is where you have different items that you can consider, medications and vitals and biometrics. You can record vitals and biometrics here right on the spot, perform triage, and so on and so forth. You can have different patient details displayed here. Of course, different attributes of the visit, for example, if someone is late or early, and very many other things. Just allow me, it's really a big app. That's why you're really encouraged to explore. You can have drug ordering. Let me just look for a test drug. I hope it's there. For example, aspirin. It's a common one maybe that is used. You can see here you have a form for drug ordering, very big and comprehensive. You can also order for lab tests, for instance, and you can see how that looks. I want you to note that this system is highly configurable. You can also change the themes and all that for the aesthetics, and maybe those just final touches if you may. The functionality, you can also take some notes as the patient care provider. You can take diagnosis, the primary, secondary, and so on. I want you to also appreciate you can configure forms to capture patient data. And these the data types are varied. Of course, you can also enforce things like conditionality, one form field displaying based on another condition being fulfilled, and so on. You can really dive into this. That's the purpose of this video, to just like really bring you closer to this, so that it's easy to get to. All right, cool. So this is the patient chart, and there are different widgets. You can really configure these widgets to display different data based on form input. And I'm sure as time goes on, as you go through the system, you'll appreciate these different apps. To show you a bit of, I hope this doesn't break. Yeah, so you can, there is an implementer tool section where you can look at some of the apps that are available, the login app, and then of course how you can see it's configurable. It's really an amazing tool. I just recommend that we get a chance, look at it, and you're bound to learn a lot from this. Yeah, it's been nice having you, and I wish you a curious stay on YouTube as you learn more and more. I call you again to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like as well, and leave your comments in case of improvements, and I'll catch you later. Thank you.